Hi, I'm Justin King, founder of L.I.G Sports Group, and this is Dingo Talk.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest is the founder of L.I.G Group, Justin King. Also, you guys might recognize him. He was pretty standout in the Whitfield through the early 2000s. He's pretty good at Penn State and had a career in the NFL and now has done things outside of his football career. Justin, thank you for taking some time. I know we had this scheduled a couple weeks ago, and Mother Nature just really does not like me down here in Morgantown, I will tell you.
Oh man, it's crazy down there. No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let me start by asking you. You went to Gateway, and that was a machine there for many years. It still kind of is.
Yeah, it wasn't when I got there though.
Under Terry Smith, it was not when you were there, it was not a machine to start. It
became a machine.
Walk us through how that program really developed with you guys, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the architect was Terry Smith, and he had a vision for the program. There were some guys that were coming up, and obviously he was a coach. I came over from Woodland Hills. And he had his philosophies through his whole playing career. And, he coached around, obviously, growing up. He was a track coach, my track coach. He was a basketball coach. So he had some familiarity with the different kids in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And also understood what a football program was supposed to look like all the way through, not just from on the field, but all the way up to administration, having buy-in there, the politics behind capital projects, what was needed. Very innovative in approach, getting people excited, whether it was from just the way we marketed and branded the team, like changing the colors from black and yellow to black and Vegas gold, being one of the first teams to be sponsored by Nike. Just a whole bunch of different things. Had the Oregon type of feel going on with 3 jerseys and things like that back in the day. So like along with everything, so it was just really building out a whole athletic department, was pretty interesting. So the football was just a benefactor of it.
Well, and now that program, when I can go back to 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010, being in the visitors locker room, you're sitting there looking at a visitors locker room going, wait, we're at a high school. That's like, for me at Plum, we got in a bus. It was longer to get in the bus than it would have been to drive from the parking lot of the high school to Monroeville. Like, and we get in this locker room and it's, whoa, this is whereas ours was not like that. So senior year, let's talk about the recruitment process, because you coming out were basically the number 1 corner in the country.
Right. Yeah.
So you end up at Penn State. What was the deciding factor, and how does Penn State come into the mix?
The deciding factor for me, I mean, they were consistent, right? Throughout the whole recruiting process, they offered me going into my 9th grade season. But I committed to University of Florida first. So I was committed there early in the season, and it was when Ron Zook and Mike Loxley was recruiting me from down there, and did a good job. But, it was my first experience of the recruiting process and how it's like big time business. Whether, I was a pretty big recruit, top 20 guy. So when I went on visits, I met with the head coach, but I was meeting with like athletic directors and presidents to talk about the whole infrastructure, because that was a part of the evaluation process going through. It's like, all right, what type of full ecosystem are we going into? So, it was like my first run-in where I was dealing with the administrator. He said, oh, he's going to be here. Coach Zook, he's going to be here for the next 3 years. Don't worry about it. All right, I feel comfortable. It's the athletic director. And then gets fired on Tuesday. So I'm like, whoa. This is real life business. So then I had to like scale back and say, okay, who's been telling me the truth this whole entire time and been consistent, and the different opportunities to give me what I want on the field, off the field. Understood that they had talent embedded at Penn State already. I was from Pittsburgh, so I saw Paul Leslie go up there. I saw AQ Shipley go up there. I saw Morelli. I guess, guys were going up there. So I'm like, well, can kind of add to that spark, and, started dealing with Derek Williams, and I was like, all right, we can make this work.
So Derek Williams is who recruited you to come to Penn State?
No. It was I committed first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
me and
So
Derek met
who,
like at a camp.
when you're saying they recruited you and they were consistent, who all
Penn
did you?
State. I
Penn
was just
State.
saying Penn State in general. Penn State
Yeah.
was consistent. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you get on to campus. Now you're talking coming from a high school program that you were part of that really went ground up. This is how a program's supposed to be.
Right.
You get to Penn State. What's a mainstream Division I football program like that? Day one, what is your first day on campus, practice? What is it like?
I mean, I had a unique first day as a college student because I was at the All American game because I went to school in January.
Mm-hmm.
So I was leaving San Antonio in January, lost my luggage. So I got to State College without a coat in the middle of a snowstorm in January. Didn't know where I was going. Like a week late after classes started. So I had to figure out, the next day with a book bag and pick up my books. So it was a pretty hectic first day after having like a 6 a.m. lift just to get acquainted. So yeah, no orientation. I was kind of just thrown into the fire or into a snowstorm more so.
Yes.
So
So,
like that was the first day.
and you went to school for, and I want to make sure I get this right, letters, arts, and science, correct?
Yeah, it turned out to be a sports administration degree. Yes. Yep.
So was that was from the beginning, that's what you were going to school for?
Absolutely. I mean, I was a coach's kid and an athletic director's kid, so that's what I did in my off time in high school. Anyway, was whether it's like collecting tickets, doing the bus schedules, and things of that nature. Having the internship, and it's just like anybody's kid. If there's like a kid that works in a restaurant, they know the restaurant business. Like I know the sports business.
So that was yours from day one.
I
So you
started off.
finished.
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a ball boy at Duquesne University at 8 years old. So like that's when I started first. Like that's how I started getting money. That was my allowance as a kid. I got paid as a ball boy. So my whole intro into football was from that side.
And is with that being your intro to football on that side, was that also why you chose football as the path, because you were a
Absolutely.
track athlete as well?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was a track athlete because as a benefit to football, right? Like
Okay.
football was always the number one thing. Track was just another means of identifying what was the critical factors of getting a scholarship and what they're judging. It was like, okay, you need speed to be good at this sport. Make sure your speed's right. So it was more that with track.
Now, can I touch base? I want to touch base on this later on. But now there's NIL deals, right?
Sure.
Was that, is it appropriate to say that was already happening in college football when you were going through recruitment?
Um, yeah, I mean, sure. Like NIL deal, like name it, like it wasn't really about your name, image, and likeness. So what you're probably referring to as pay for play, like the people
Yeah.
offer money. I mean, sure, but like there were people that pay for memorabilia and things at Penn State like all the time, and that I mean that's just across the country. But that's a part of your name, image, and likeness. It happened. It wasn't legal. But yeah, people made offers and stuff in high school. Like you seen like at the All American game, you see
And
like nice packages
and
get dropped off.
now, do you think that does that help? Does that help the game now that it's not a question mark anymore? It as long as you're getting for your name, image, and likeness, as long as it's taken care of, is that making things easier for schools? Is it harder for schools? Is it harder for the athletes?
It's just another dynamic in I guess the sports ecosystem. I don't think it's harder or not. I think it's kind of past due, right? Like from a standpoint of it's taking the work away from the schools that they have to figure out actual payroll or not being protected under whatever tax laws that they have, or they're not employees and things of that nature. So there's a lot of different factors in it. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that it would be a lot easier to just pay them, to be completely honest, because the free market value for a lot of athletes isn't crazy, but it does present a cool opportunity for guys to get firsthand business experience and things of that nature. So overall, I think it is good for the ecosystem. It's just there has to be, certain pillars put in place to make sure that the risks are minimized.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's an interesting way of looking at it that a lot of people aren't. They're not looking at it from the side of, one, these kids are now going to get like learning hands-on business opportunities because they're the business, right? They're their product.
And it almost becomes like a course correction, right? Where you understand that you're a part of something bigger, or you can actually mess up, and you start to get that in your head at 13 or 14, and not just, oh, I'm looking for offers, or I'm going to this school to do a photo shoot. It's like, okay, I have to protect this. That means I can't move like this. That means I can't
Mm-hmm.
operate like this because it might mess up my money here. Like having that ingrained at an earlier age is I think incredible and a nice benefit.
So you finished your degree in 2.5 years. You were a Big Ten academic All-American. Why? What made it? I don't want to say easy, but what got you through in 2.5 years to finish out a major?
I was there a lot. I was at Penn State a lot. Right. I started. I started. No, but I did. Like I came early, so I started there, and then like again, we talk about having the whole infrastructure from a high school standpoint. Like my goal was to graduate earlier and all those things. So shout out to our AD, who's now the superintendent at Gateway now, Mr. Short. There, it just kind of really helped me take college level courses that actually transitioned to Penn State when I was there. So some of my science credits from high school were already accelerated.
Mm-hmm.
Being there in the summer, coming early, all that stuff starts to add up. I took kind of a normal course load during the season. And yeah, before I knew it was over.
Well, so let's talk about the difference between high school practices and college practices, because I know that when I was in high school, it was, you hit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday might be a walkthrough, but you might be in uppers, and then Friday you're on the field.
Right.
What was the biggest difference for you? What was there a difference, or was it just get to the speed of the rest of the game, the college game, and just go to work?
It wasn't much different from my high school to college back then, right? Like I think it's probably different from my post football career and going back and watching practice or being on the other end from the personnel administration side, whereas worrying about the analytics of practice or how long they're going and the care hours and just how much you're beating the team up with the sports science and all those different things. So when I played though, it was physical in high school and physical at Penn State. We practiced fast at Penn State though. That's one thing I did say. Like those are pretty hard practices.
Hard and fast is what you're saying. So there was a lot
Hard
of
and fast.
physicality and a lot of speed, tempo.
And, yeah, we would get off the field in about, like Joe would say, like 86 minutes or 62 minutes. It'd be pretty fast, but we're moving.
So in 2008, you decide to forego your last year of college eligibility to enter the draft. You get drafted in the 4th round. What is draft prep like?
It's like, um, that's a good question. Draft prep is really unique when to think about it, right? Because it's almost like summer camp with other NFL players.
Yeah.
That's kind of just like we went to Arizona. Some guys
Mm-hmm.
go to Orlando, and it's the same schedule. You get your meals made, go to nice restaurants, and you work out every day, all day, and you're just all waiting for the same interview. At the end of the day, so that's all I compare it to. It was like an exotic summer camp.
So when you're
And that could get you in trouble. It's hurt a lot of guys with draft stock because you go there and it's like, oh, you might do it. You go to Miami and it's like, I'm not used to this, right? You get off track of what it is. So
different type of nightlife can draw some people in.
Yeah, it's got to be laser focused when you're making that thing. So it's like it's a cool 3-month time period.
And we will get back to it's interesting you bring up Miami. We'll get back to that because I believe you have an experience at the U as well with your masters. But yeah. So when you when we get to the draft day, or because this would have been day 2, right? 4th round.
This was the first year. This was the first year it was split up, so it was day 3 actually.
Okay, so day 3, did you know you were going? Did you expect to go earlier?
Yeah, I actually thought I was going to go earlier.
Okay.
I thought I was going to go late first, early second, just based on feedback, based on information I was receiving. But
so when you get the call from the Rams, what is I mean, obviously this is the lifetime goal, right? Get to the NFL.
Right. That's the funny that you say that, because it's like at the time I get the call, I'm pissed off. Right. Like it's one of the moments I regret in my career where, you look back and you don't, and like I never took a picture of my name going across. I didn't really celebrate or anything like that. I had some people over, but I was probably not the best to be around because I was upset. So like when I talk to guys now, it's like always enjoy the moment of football
Mm-hmm.
because you work to that moment. And for me, I was always focused on that moment. And now working back in football, I missed that moment, right? Like whether you're with people drafted or you like a Jaquan Brisker, you're seeing him from like JUCO and recruiting him and seeing him play for the Bears now, like he's like in his moment. But like I missed that moment of getting drafted. So I was actually pissed off. So it's actually a regrettable moment because it was an accomplishment to be excited about and be in the moment for. So yeah, that's how my draft day was.
One and it's interesting you say that because I feel like that's that part of that competitive drive that obviously we know the statistics. 1% of the high school athletes will go to Division 1%. of that 1% go on to the NFL. But that competitive drive in you, it wasn't that you were upset. I feel like you weren't upset you got drafted. It was, well, why am I now? Why did I fall this far? As opposed to, and
Exactly.
like, let me get on the field and I'm going to show everybody.
Yeah, that was definitely it, right? Like not having used to having I had a chip on my shoulder. I mean, after you start sliding and things of that nature, but it's you're embarrassed a little bit because like I left school early, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a little different for other guys where you put it in perspective. It's like, oh, it wasn't because first thing I do when I get to the building, personnel talks to me. It's like, you'd have stayed, you'd have won first round. You'd have stayed with first round. I'm like, oh, bleep you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to hear that.
I don't
So,
need that
but
right now.
like,
Thanks.
but that's the type of stuff that happens, and you live and you learn. But it's a good opportunity for just guys, athletes in general, just people, just enjoy the moments.
Well, so your first year, you end up tearing a ligament in your big toe that sidelines you for that rookie season. And with these two kind of the where you fell in the draft and then the right after having the injury, I kind of want to ask you about the mental health side. Like, where were you mentally? Where were you? Because it seems, there's a couple roadblocks here now as you're
Right.
getting into the career side of this.
No, exactly. Right. This is another part where you're just having the thoughts that you had on draft day. Like, well, what am I doing? Am I second guessing what I did? I was pretty sure on why I left and why whatever, like that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hurt your toe, like as a speed guy in a corner, if you ever think about just the biomechanics of stepping into the ground, planning, accelerating, and all that, that's all your big toe. That's like
Yeah.
that's like a boxer not having a thumb. I mean, I don't know if that does.
Yeah. It's like boxer not having a hand,
Or a
basically.
hand per se, right? That's even more extreme. But yeah, so it was definitely it was more maintaining of a time period, right? Like you're on
Mm-hmm.
your own, uh, going through the rehab process. So it was like I think I had great vets like Corey Chavis where it kept me engaged, where I really got into the personnel side of things because one of
Mm-hmm.
my rookie duties was to give scouting reports to the defense every Friday. So with him, I would break down like upcoming opponents, really learn scouting language, how to present to NFL players as a rookie and things like that. And I still had rookie duties like getting breakfast and stuff like that. So it was cool, but the mental aspect of it was definitely like a maintaining type thing. It was rough.
So you're if I'm right, you're with the Rams for 3 seasons,
Four.
4 seasons, and then you make your way to Indianapolis.
Yes.
Now, what was that transition like? Because you're going from St. Louis that at the time they were kind of in between as an organization, and
Yeah.
Indianapolis is kind of on that rise.
Right. We were Stan Kroenke was buying the team at um, the Rams, and we had just drafted Andrew Luck at the Colts. So it was interesting because I was coming off of shoulder surgery, leaving the Rams. So I was going into free agency
Mm-hmm.
injured. So like when free agency opened, I wasn't cleared to do anything or practice. And I had a solid year the year before, but bad team in NFL, hurt corner, not the hottest on the free market, the waiver or the free market anyway. So when I finally healed up, as soon as I got cleared, I got signed by the Colts. Went there. From when you're not running and things of that nature throughout the off season, the condition is different. So I had a calf strain.
Mhm.
in there, but end up winning a starting spot going into the season, and injuries kind of ensued. But yeah, that was kind of the transition from St. Louis to the Colts. But it was a great opportunity.
And again, now you're into your second organization. So I want to bring back the mental health side of it. The injuries again are piling up. Is it again just maintain, continue, like you're on the right path, or are you really
No,
starting
no, no.
to?
It's like it's draining, right? You're living your life and your goal, and the way you got there was like, all right, I gotta get better, I gotta get better, I gotta get better. Then at one point it shifts to like nervous if you're healthy or not. So you're like, all
Mhm.
right, I gotta stay healthy, I gotta stay healthy, I gotta stay healthy, and so like that becomes the foremost thought. But it's a very hyper competitive area, right? So
Yeah,
like things hurting at a corner, like my calf hurts or at a corner, or just dealing with injuries is getting over a lot of the mental things. But yeah, I mean, mental health is, I guess, it's a part of high end sports, professional sports. Looking back on it, I mean, it obviously it was probably like real, but you
yeah.
learn from it and you sharpen from it. So like that's kind of how I take it now.
So then from the Colts, you end up coming home, you come to
Yep.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
What was that transition like?
It was interesting because I was familiar with the Steelers like organization and staff, whether it was at the time Brandon Hunt and different guys that worked over there. Uh, growing up in Pittsburgh, right? And
Yeah,
and so like going through the process, it was cool. It was a real cool time, like being there for like that short period of time. And but it was a great organization. It was really cool to see the different organizations operate. Like I always was interested in, okay, like what's the special sauce here? What's the special sauce there? Always having a mentality of wanting to be a GM, like going through through my playing career. But
I was going to
yeah,
say that goes back to that. The building blocks that were laid at 8 years old as the ball boy. You were on the administrative side already, wanting to see the ins and outs and how do we get to Miami in your masters? Is that after your playing career? Does that happen while?
that's after my playing career. After my playing career, I decided I wanted to actually wanted to go back to I wanted to go to school, and I thought the one thing from going to different organizations that the different players was their psyches and how their makeup was. So I was like, man,
Mhm.
if you can evaluate, I don't understand the evaluation on the external. Like if I can understand the evaluation on the internal, like we're cooking with gas. So I started actually a sports psychology masters, and halfway, a little more over halfway through, I started feeling like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm charting for the Cleveland Browns at the same time. Is that like, are they going to understand? Like, are you trying to see people? Are you trying to be a shrink? Like, what are you trying to do? So like, maybe I wasn't as confident in where it would fit into my journey right now, right? So now I'm sitting there like, maybe I should go back and get it. But like, what I'm doing now. But anyway, then I transitioned and went to Miami for the sports administration because I was in it, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna double down and get more experience on the business side of the sports.
When you brought up that you're a scout at the time for the Browns, right?
Right.
So how does what I guess is that a normal thing for
Well,
players?
I was like I was like I was an outside consultant for like the analytics and all that good
Okay.
stuff. And so I was, I work from home. It was long hours and different things of that nature. So it's just kind of delegate your time to
And then
watching.
from the Browns, you end up as a territory manager for, and I want to make sure I get ATI physical therapy.
Yep.
You were there for two
Yep. Yep. Yep.
years, 2.5 years,
Yep.
2 years.
Actually, it was because it got acquired after the first year. It was a startup called Ideal Physical Therapy, and it
Okay.
was leaving the Cleveland Browns when I told you I made the transition into the sports management administration program, or making
Mm-hmm.
that decision. I felt like I needed just different didactic experiences, right? I was always in sports, all that good stuff. So I was always evaluating and doing that, but I really wasn't doing much selling, negotiating, going back and forth, understanding, like the debits and credits of different things that come with business, right? So I was like, I need
Yeah.
to find a way to get some experience. So I thought that was an interesting way, or a congruent way of my experience from football, dealing with a lot of injuries, talking to doctors, talking to physical therapists. Hey, I can talk about physical therapy services with physicians and things of that nature, and build some skills while I'm doing it. So like that's kind of what led me there. found some things that I was good at. And I was like, hey, I could take this back and even go further in football. So maybe I need to go back into sports. So that's how I slid back into Penn State.
Well, that's it. I was going to ask. So how did you end up find your way back up to State College? And again, it's in that recruiting area of talking to players and kind of give us what was your job when you're the recruiting coordinator. So you're dealing with the entire board, or were you regional?
I was specifically the whole side of the defense.
Okay.
That was specifically my thing. Whole side of the defense until full things came up into full staffs, and then obviously it was the recruiting staff. But like I was specifically on the defensive side when I was there, and it was from sourcing the players, recruiting the players, making sure you're filling in all the pixels throughout the evaluation process. Found them early in ninth grade, get everything that you need, breaking it down, making sure that all the I's are checked on them, make sure that there isn't a kid that can hold a coach hostage, right? Meaning that if someone's good and they're like not picking up the phone, got somebody just as good behind you. So just making sure that the pipeline of talent was correct. When I got there, it was to find the big fish, right? Michael Parsons and Jaquan Briskers and Oways of the world. And but yeah, so that's kind of what we did.
So I'm guessing that these three plus the master's degree and the three professional experiences led you down the path to the manager of football ops and player personnel for the XFL.
Yeah.
Now, is that pre-COVID or is
that's pre-COVID? That's pre-COVID. Yep.
So that says it's getting ready to do the next launch, and then COVID happens, and there's kind of a peel back.
Six games in.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 games in. Yeah, COVID happened. We started football league with Vince McMahon, Oliver Luck, and Doug Whaley. So it was a lot of experience with ESPN and Fox, right?
Can I ask what's that experience like? Because that seems like a lot of Chiefs in the room.
It was a dream job. At the end of the day, you talk about starting a football league where you're not under an umbrella like the NFL or NCAA, where you're throwing stuff up against the board. When you got a creative mind like Oliver Luck, Doug Whaley, and you're trying to whether disrupt some things, whether it's from the talent acquisition, finding college players like we did with Kenny Robinson. He only had 2 years at West Virginia when he left there.
Mm-hmm.
We recruited, signed him, did that whole thing to circumvent the scouting combine process and sitting out a whole year, but actually getting film and getting better year to year. You get guys like PJ Walker, just everything that Heineke for the Commanders, everyone that was trying to just have another breeding ground for the football ecosystem, but from a league office standpoint. So just understanding really all the tentacles of business that actually feed off of the sports property that is a football league, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and it was like,
well, and that's crazy to me that we've gone this long without these other, the USFL was a thing for a little bit, the AAFL, the XFL is now going to do a launch, but I think they're now involved with the NFL as a feeder / testing. We're going to test out some rules and see how they work out.
Yeah.
And it's interesting with the amount of college athletes that you have out there that there isn't other opportunities other than either going down. Like I have a couple guys I went to school with at the Division III level. They've gone to Germany, they've gone to Brazil, or they've gone to Canada. Those seem to be the kind of the options. And now you see these leagues that should succeed, because I don't understand how ratings don't go well. We miss football in the spring.
I understand the ratings are one thing, but running a football league is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Extremely expensive and extremely hard. Like there's a lot of moving parts. You have to have certain things in place, and it's a unique skill set of people, like a unique group of people to put on a product, because you're not really just running a good football league, right? It's a sports and it's entertainment and media.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, so you have to. And I'm coming from the standpoint, our whole goal was to reimagine football. We're talking about changing the kickoff, like doing reiterations of the football, the punt rules. So we were challenging every known thing that people knew about football, and then try to recreate a product that was there. And that was the attraction of it, right? Because starting a football league and just with no name players, it might be, but to get it operating with enough money that's still flowing.
You
like
have to get the people behind it. You have to get the town, the cities behind it. I mean, there has to be. There's a lot of.
It's not easy. It's something that's emerging in Europe heavy right now, and with the influence of the NFL, but like a lot of grassroots things from just that I'm dealing with. It's
Well,
going international, right?
and it's crazy that I remember as a kid there was NFL Europe, and I only remember them because of their jerseys. They had the ads on the jerseys, and they
pretty
were
sweet. A pretty sweet setup.
But it was interesting. Like you saw guys that you would see 2 years, 3 years earlier. Now they're big time in. But so now I think we've covered everything up until here we are in the last couple years.
Yeah, L.I.G Sports Group. Most definitely. It's
let's talk about it.
Yeah. L.I.G Sports Group. It's a strategic talent acquisition firm, like specializing at the intersection of sports and business. So like throughout the whole sports ecosystem, our specialty is the talent acquisition aspect, right? So in high school, we talk about, we develop curriculums for high schools for the sports, different programs, or not programs, but sports paths, right? Whether it's team operations, league operations, and things of that nature. So developing that with Gateway right now, which is a pretty cool thing. We have the Blue Chip Academy where we have executives and players come on and share their experiences going through the process and using sports as a catalyst to a career that they can bank on. So it's everyone getting into the game with the end goal, not being professional sports and which it can be a part of the journey, but using it along the way to you can have a career that you can bank on, right? Like you see these coaches, the head coach at Liberty, $40 million. Like there's a lot of monetization points within the sports that you're spending time in. So that's what we do there in college. We have Lockdown U, which is a brand group that we create from the talent acquisition side, finding a scalable asset in form of via position group, the DBs, or then we brand that and put the resources around that, and then executive searching at the top end. So it's a strategic talent acquisition firm, because that's what we do when you talk about recruiting, just all the way through in the different forms from high school levels all the way up to the executive suites.
And this seems like a culmination of everything. I want to go back again to that 8-year-old guy that's getting his allowance as a ball boy. Now he's into the front line of the administration of, like, you wanted your hands into it all, not just the one side. Why start the group? Why start the company?
The need. After you see all the different points or the gaps from the league level, and going all the way through, right? When you talk about coming up as a 5-star recruit, 20th overall, like it was a unique time in just football in general. That's the birth of rivals. It's the second, third year of the All-American game. All these things are just happening. So like I'm like the product. I understood where I fit in the whole ecosystem going through. So like I'm the product. Okay, this is what this means. This is what a good program looks like. This is the whole infrastructure here, and going all the way through in that XFL piece. I mean, we know what the NFL is from a structural standpoint, but that XFL piece, seeing all the different nuances, things were happening. Obviously, NIL was coming up from the conversations, and dealing with the coaching staffs. One of our things was hiring diverse head coaches, but when the head coaches came to the table, sometimes they didn't have their whole staff in order. And you say like there's a lot of people within sports. I mean, a head coach comes, there's about 60 other positions behind that. So helping staff those positions for the head coaches was something that was really cool, connecting the dots. And that was another piece of the talent acquisition in sports that is kind of bottlenecked, because it's such a network-based, friendship group-based industry, whether it's sports, corporate America, whatever the case may be. So providing a service like the same way we do with recruits and things of that nature, but for staff members and head coaches and things that where you're evaluating the off the field staff. So that's the talent acquisition services all the way up. So that's where everything really comes down to talent acquisition from the standpoint of the recruiting and what we do at L.I.G Sports Group.
Absolutely. And if somebody is interested in finding you, where can they find you?
You can find me at www.ligsports.com or on Twitter at the King1 or IG at JKingLIG.
Well,
and there's a YouTube.
Oh, what's the YouTube?
The YouTube is the Blue Chip Academy podcast.
So we will have the link will be below Justin, right below his face there. It'll be right below there for at least the website. I don't know if my editor can put all of that in there, but we will make sure that you check out the website, check him out on his socials, and get over to the Blue Chip Academy and check out on YouTube. While you're there, you can check us out every week. We're here at 10 o'clock. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and pretty much everywhere else you find podcasts. And then on social media, you can find us on IG, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. The only difference is Instagram. It's Dingo_talk instead of just DingoTalk. If you type in regular DingoTalk, you'll find some wild dogs from Australia. It's the guy who runs the account. He's very nice. He doesn't like that I have the same name as him, but we get over it because I put an underscore and that's different. Justin, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me.
No doubt. Appreciate it.
And like I said, we'll see you next Thursday at 10 a.m. Chuckleheads.
You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know by now. You wanna know.